go through it once again. So hello, Catherine and Kavita. Thank you for joining this call. And in this call, the next seniors applicants who are there, they're looking forward to learning about how can they do well in the interviews. So as you, both of you are experts in interviews and interview prep and guiding students on how to do well, I pass it on to you, and we look forward to learning about how to ace the admission interviews, how to ace the next seniors interviews. So over to you, Catherine and Kavita, and welcome once again.
Great. Thank you, Devesh, so much for that warm welcome. We're really thrilled to be here today and be able to present some information to you guys about how you can ace your interviews. Before we get into that, I'd like to start with a centering exercise because I know that you guys have just come from another webinar. So let's take a little bit of time to sort of break from that and get into the right mindset. I think that this too is a really good exercise to just help sort of clear your thoughts and focus. Great thing to do before you're going into an interview, for example, just to get you sort of centered and present in the moment. So leading you in the centering exercise, I'd like you all to sit up tall in your chairs. Make sure you're not slouching. That's right. I see everyone sort of adjusting my shoulders back. You're sitting up nice and tall. We're going to do something called circular breathing. So for 3 counts, I'd like you to breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Hold it for 1, 2, 3. And then I want you to exhale. 1, 2, 3. Good. Let's do that 2 more times. So we're completing the full cycle of 3. So inhale, 1, 2, 3. Hold, 1, 2, 3. And exhale, 1, 2, 3. And last time we'll inhale, 1, 2, 3. Hold, 2, 3. And exhale. Big exhale on that one. Let everything out. Loosen up. I hope everyone's feeling a little more present, a little more focused, ready to go into this session. With that, I'm going to share my screen for the presentation. And great, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
I'm going to pass it over to Kavita so as we begin our workshop.
Okay, hi everyone. It's great to be here, and I can see we are a large number on this webinar today. And we really hope that the next 30 minutes add some value and learning to the very many kinds of interviews all of you will do in future. And just stepping back a little bit and understanding that one is a structured interview that we do, when someone interviews us. But what we must realize that we are actually being interviewed and evaluated ever since we put ourselves out there in front of any secondary person. So when you're in class 9, for example, you start applying for internal school leadership positions. And that's when you get evaluated, you get interviewed. Then when you get to class 11, suddenly everybody wakes up and wants to do these internships or these extra learning programs. So that's again when you get interviewed. Then when you actually apply to colleges and universities, that's when you get interviewed. And finally, once you finish your education, then you get into the job market, and that's where you also get interviewed. Interviewing is of various kinds. So some are formal interviews where, a time is scheduled, you have a one-to-one interaction, or a formal interview can mean a panel talks to you and then evaluates you. So it's a one-to-many interaction. But an interview can also be that you're in a group setting. And then a group discussion is when you're being evaluated and you're being looked at very closely to see if you have the attributes that make the cut. The training that we're going to do today, or the discussion that we're going to present to you today, these are sort of points that help you in any setting. These are points that are sacrosanct to present the best version of yourself. So, look at this learning as holistic and don't worry too much about, can I use it in one scenario? Can I use it in another scenario? You actually use all of this in any kind of interview that you do. So this was to set the context of this webinar going further. How we're going to do it is we're going to go through the workshop. Then we are very happy to take any and all questions. I will leave it to Devesh to then decide the mechanics of it, of whether students should come on and speak themselves, or you'd like to chat the questions, or you'd like to share them with next genius and they come to us and we answer them. But remember, make your points, note them down, and we are here to answer each and every question that might come up with. So now, without wasting any more time, let's jump into the magic of making you people ace any and every interview that you go for. Okay? So here we go. What's the first one? Time. And this is something that you all must be noticing, even in your interactions with Devesh so far. If you notice, he is very punctual about time, he's very precise about time, and how he communicates within that time frame is indeed commendable. So, what is the learning from this? That time is of essence, punctuality is of essence. And why is it so important? You know, we all keep hearing our parents, our mentors, our teachers keep talking about time. Be punctual, be punctual, be punctual. But when you show up on time, when you show up prepared, and when you're punctual, it shows that A, you have character and integrity. It shows you are serious about what you're doing. And third, it is honoring the person who is interviewing you also. So, you know, showing up on time is one thing, but the message you send out when you show up on time is equally important. So it's important to know what the day is, what the date is, what the time is of your interview, and schedule yourself to be logged in, ready 5 minutes before. Let's go to the next one. Equipment. You know, in the world that we are today, there were times when equipment was a big no-no. We were all told to switch off our phones, keep our computers away, and then appear for in-person interviews. But the world has drastically changed. And now we have two kinds of interactions available. One is online interactions and one is in-person interactions. Now, in the online interactions, it is very important to remember that we must be prepared beforehand. So, how can we prepare beforehand? A, we must know the platform we are going to use and we must familiarize ourselves with it. So, you know, if it's Zoom, if it's a Gmail, if it's a private platform that someone is using, make sure to go on, look at it before, figure out how the camera works, how the mic works, so that you're not stumbling on that day. The second thing, make sure everything is charged well in advance. You know, if you're in a place where suddenly the charge goes off, or you're in a place where electricity goes off, then you don't want to struggle with these things, which is a given. And to illustrate, this is not just something that we are saying. You know, my computer is 100% charged right now, but here I still have the charging wire plugged in just so I don't want to take a chance with the charge running out. Also, it's very important to close all other browsers on your computer or your phone when you're doing a formal interview, because you don't want chat messages, you don't want other pings, you don't want friends reaching out. And believe me, all your friends, all your social media will still be there after your interview. But shut all the browsers and only have the platform that you need to speak on available and tested beforehand. The next one, grooming. Now, there is no right answer to this. We are not here to tell you curb your style. I think every student has their own individualistic style and they want to express themselves in a manner which is fair enough. But there are 2 or 3 things that we must remember. The first one is that it's important to show up for an occasion appropriately. So if you're showing up for a formal interview that says dress formal, then it's important to be dressed in a collar shirt or even if it's an Indian outfit for some reason, it should be, you know, a neat, clean, well pressed outfit. Also, it's important to be well groomed at all times. So there is no reason why your hair should be unkempt. There is no reason why you should be wearing too much makeup. There is no reason why you should wear all the jewelry that you own for an interview. So remember, now in an online interaction, 1/4 of our body is only available for people to look at us. We don't need to worry about our shoes. We don't need to worry about our, lower attire. So 1/4 must be really presentable. And if your style is that you want to dye your hair blue, please go ahead and dye it blue. But make sure that on the day of the interview, that blue hair is combed nicely, right? Unless you're applying for the position to be a rock band manager, then sure, go ahead and make those spikes even harder and longer and unkempt if you like. Similar is the case for makeup. There is no real rule at jewelry. Today, boys and girls both love to express their love for jewelry. Sure, go ahead, do it. But as long as it does not distract for the impression you want to create on screen. So imagine if I showed up here wearing lots of bangles which did jingle jangle every time I was talking to you. It would take away from the story that I'm trying to tell, from the message that I'm trying to send you. So remember, less is always more. Also remember, formal is always better than informal. You can never be overdressed, but here, yes, you can't go in your wedding finery, but be smartly clad, which shows that you've taken the time to groom well. And again, it shows respect and sincerity and seriousness to the interview that you're appearing for. The next one. Okay, so for the ease of learning, we have devised this big secret that we tell all of you. It's called the 3 Ps. Now, what are these 3 Ps? The first P is prepare. A lot of times we feel we can wing it. A lot of times we feel we don't need preparation. A lot of times we feel that we just don't have the time to invest to practice beforehand or prepare beforehand. But remember, when we prepare, it gives us a lot of pluses. So what are these pluses? I'm sorry. Once we have the material ready, whether we've written our notes down or whether we've rehearsed them in our head, look in the mirror and practice. When you prepare yourself well with the information, then that preparation allows you to practice, which is our second P. Practice makes perfect. Look in the mirror, practice, talk to a buddy, practice, speak with your mentor, practice, talk to your parents, practice. When you practice, you can try different styles. You can try different ways of saying the same thing. You can use different words to say the same thing. You can use different styles to the same thing. And then choose what is most comfortable, what makes you feel most confident, and what creates the best impression about yourself. So practice really does make perfect. And I cannot stress enough that how much you must need to practice. Do you know, Catherine and I have created this program. And even if you wake us up at 4 a.m. and say, what are the 3 Ps, we can rattle them off in our speech because we've created them. But even today, Catherine and I have done a practice run through of this presentation. This is to tell you that it doesn't matter how many times you've done it. It doesn't matter how old you've gotten, and we are quite old, believe you me. But what is important is don't forget that practice is what is needed to make yourself succeed at every interview. And what is the last P of these 3 Ps? Is something called pre-research. Again, I'm going to divide this into 2. One is research about the organization, the college, the learning program that you're applying to. So in this case, if you're applying to Next Genius, then you should have researched what does Next Genius do? What is the criteria to apply? What are the kind of students who have got in? What are the kind of colleges on the program, etc. The second is you research the course, the job, or the internship you're applying for. Again, why is this important? A, it helps you align your goals with the goal of the college or the organization. And B, let me give you a practical example for this one. So let's assume you've applied to join the editorial board of a college, of your school magazine. So what are they looking for? They're looking for someone who is a team player. They're looking for someone who can work with deadlines. They're looking for someone who has good command over their language. and they're looking for someone who is not afraid to take criticism. Because when you write an article, then you are, the editor has the right to tell you, please rewrite it, or let's include more details, etc. On the other hand, if you're applying to be the head boy or head girl of your school, what are the characteristics you need to exhibit? So you need to show that you are up to taking up the challenge. You can motivate others. You are able to deliver to deadlines. And also, you are a people's person that can work with teachers, academic committees, and students. So, can you see how, when you pre research, you understand the nuances of the role, and then you give your answers in such a way that you become the most irresistible candidate that they have met, and they have no choice but to offer that role or that seat or that internship opportunity to you. So those are the 3 P's, and please remember them, because any student who understands the importance of the 3 P's, I promise you, in fact, Catherine and I promise you that you will always succeed in every interview that you do. Okay, so moving on, and I hand it to you, Catherine, to take us through the next 4 slides.
Okay, thank you, Kavita. So Kavita just told us the secret of the 3 P's. I'm going to let you guys in on another secret here too. When you're in any sort of interview, the words that you're using actually aren't the most important part of your communication. Instead, the most significant or the most important part is body language. And studies that have been done on communication, on body language, on speech show that body language makes up about 90% of what the listener is paying attention to, even more so than the words that you're using. So body language consists of a few things. It's your tone, it's your facial expression, it's any body movement that you're using, it's gestures, it's your posture. So what's the ideal body language that you should be maintaining when you're in an interview? And this differs just a little bit when you're doing an in-person versus an online interview, but some rules still apply throughout. So the first one is good posture. So like we did at the beginning of the centering exercise, making sure you're sitting up nice and tall in your chair if you're doing a virtual interview. If you're doing an in-person interview, then it means walking into the room with confidence, again, with your shoulders drawn back, your chest is open, you don't want your shoulders to be slumped forward. You want to make sure that, you're looking straight ahead, you're not looking downward, you're not looking around all over the place, but you're looking straight either into the camera or to the person that you're speaking with, and maintaining good eye contact throughout the interview. Part of body language is also smiling. So you don't need to have a smile plastered on your face the whole time, because that may come across as a bit artificial, but you smile when you meet someone, you smile.
Okay, did Catherine get frozen?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so no problem. I'll just take it up from here till she joins back. Okay, so body language, as Catherine was saying, is so very important. So she started with smile, and I think we all understand the importance of smile, not a fake smile, but a smile that is genuine and also indicates that you have a pleasing, pleasant personality and you're amenable to working well together. After the face, let's come to the shoulders. Now, our shoulders indicate a lot about our posture. So in our shoulders, we can either slouch, or we can sit back, or we can be very stiff. And she's back. So I'll just complete the shoulders and Catherine may go to the rest of the body. So the trick is, you need to sit back, relaxed, with your shoulders open. And another secret that I will share with you is the brain takes 7 seconds. Remember this, the first 7 seconds to form an impression about you. So within that 7 seconds, your smile needs to register, your open shoulders need to register, and also the use of your hands. I think now the fact that only 1/4 of our body is visible, our hands have become the biggest tool that we have to illustrate what we are saying. Again, the hands can actually be our biggest tool, but it can also be the biggest distraction. So imagine now, if speaking with you, I keep doing this, or I keep doing this, or I'm just aimlessly moving my hands around. They actually distract. Hands need to be used to communicate points. Hands need to be used to illustrate the point that I'm making. And again, the point about jewelry that we were talking about, if you wear too much, then that also distracts from what is being said. Catherine, would you like to add anything more to the body language bit?
The last thing I would say, so absolutely, as you were saying, you use your hands to communicate, you use them to underline the idea that you're trying to express. Nothing, this fidgeting also includes, picking at your hands, biting your nails, touching your face, wiggling a pen, jiggling your foot. Any of this can it's distracting, and it can give the impression that you're nervous, which you don't want to do. That isn't the ideal impression to give. The last thing I would add is, again, just showing that you're open to communication. So you don't cross your arms in front of you. Don't look down, right? You want to keep yourself very open towards the person as well that you're communicating with, or towards the camera, which just it serves to convey poise, confidence, and an openness to the discussion that you're engaging with. After body language, and in fact, sort of this is a next step from body language, is tone and voice, because this is another key part of communication beyond just the words that you're using. So imagine if I came into today's presentation and I was just speaking and I was delivering the speech today like this. You would probably be pretty bored. You might even log out if I were speaking that way in a monotone voice the whole time. That's because voice modulation and tone are really, really important and effective in helping you to convey the ideas, the emotions, to bring about sort of that emphasis that makes your speech memorable and compelling. So a few of the key techniques that you can intentionally and purposefully use within tone and voice are things like emphasis. So when you pause, or when you put emphasis on certain words, it helps to bring the audience's attention, or the interviewer's attention, to that word, which is effective in helping to convey the specific point that you want to convey. So things like emphasis on certain words, pausing in between. When you pause in between different ideas, it gives the listener a moment to stop, to register, to absorb what you've just said before you move on to the next idea. And sometimes if it's a setting where you're giving a more formal speech, or you're talking about something with, more serious tone, something with some gravity, you can even use silence in between. Because when you pause and you have that moment of silence, it can bring that extra, it just brings that extra air of sort of drama, and it's one step beyond the pause or the emphasis. Even things like volume, thinking about the volume and the pace, the pace is the speed of your speech. These can be really important, especially in group interviews. You definitely don't want to be so quiet or speak so quickly that people can't understand what you're saying, but you also don't want to be the loudest person in the room. So you want to make sure that you're sort of gauging your volume, your pace of speaking, so that you're absolutely audible and you're sort of matching the same level of the people who are around you. If you use all of these, then you can effectively use your tone and voice to help convey emotion, bring emphasis to certain ideas or parts of your speech, and ultimately just more effectively convey your ideas and your message. Okay, next, an important point is humility, and humility in your speech, in what you're talking about, in the details that you choose to share in the interview. So no one likes a braggart. I think that's just a part of human nature, that, we really don't want to be surrounded by people who only talk about how wonderful they are. People tend to prefer spending their time with someone else who's a little more modest, who has a little more humility. But then the question you're probably asking is, in an interview, how do you speak about your achievements? How do you speak about your accomplishments and really show what you did without sounding like you're boasting? A few tips to achieve this balance between, being able to speak about your achievements while doing so with humility, is to make sure that, one, when you are speaking about what you've done, keep emphasis on that work that you did and the hard work and the effort that went into it. So rather than almost downplaying or dismissing your accomplishments and saying, oh, that was so easy, or, oh, I hardly tried. I think sometimes people feel like they need to do that because it's hard to
Hi, has she got frozen again?
Yes, yes, it seems.
Okay. So carrying on from what Catherine was saying, while it is important to not brag about what we do, it is also important that we humbly state what it is that we have achieved. So humility is so important on when we're talking about accomplishments. So one way of saying something is, oh, my work is so great that I was the obvious choice for to be selected for this position. The other way to say the same thing is to say, I endeavored and accomplished all of this, so I was selected for this position. We are saying the same information, but we're saying it in a manner which makes it a difference from an overconfident brag to a humble submission. At the same time, we have to be careful, like Catherine was just saying, not to downplay what we do, because what we achieve gets achieved after a lot of hard work and sincerity. But it's also important that to strike that fine balance between stating what we have achieved and stating it in a manner that does not come across as an overconfident brag to your interview panel. I think, Catherine, we can move to the next slide.
Yes, thank you. And next, an important part of the interview is making sure that you're truly listening to the question being asked. So in order to be a strong speaker, you also need to be a good listener. You need to be tuned into your surroundings. So in an individual interview, that means listening to the question that the interviewer is asking you. In a group interview, it means listening to the points that have already been laid out before yours, so that you're not just repeating an idea or information that has already been shared. When you're going into an interview, whether it's a one-on-one interview, whether it's a group interview, chances are that you're already going to have run through some of your responses. You're going to have a sense of what you want to say. Therefore, it can be tempting to, just want to dive right into that information rather than really, really listening to the question and listening to all parts of the question and making sure you're answering that fully. I'll give you an example of where I often see this happening. Sometimes a university might ask, why are you interested in our college? Other times they might ask, why are you a good fit for our school or our community? These on the surface might sound like same question, but there are subtle differences between them. And if you're really listening and clued into it, then the answers, the way that you approach the answers will be different. So why are you interested? You really talk about what is it about the university that draws you in? What have you found in your research that makes you think this is the place for me? Why are you a good fit? Not only asks, why are you interested in our college, but also what is it about you that makes you fit with the school's vision, the mission, the ethos? What are you also bringing to the table? So that question asks you to show a bit about yourself as well, and what you will also bring, and how you will take advantage of the opportunities and the resources available there. So that's just one example where you need to make sure that you're really, really listening to the question rather than just trying to launch into your prepared response and kind of get all of the information out and get it off your chest. When you respond to the question being asked, it also means adapting and modifying. So you always adapt to the circumstances, whether it's one-on-one or even in a group interview. So let's say, again, in a group setting, a question is posed, you know exactly what you want to say, and then right before your turn, someone else steals the words out of your mouth and they've said the exact same thing. You're going to have to think on your toes. You're going to have to come up with something else, because you shouldn't either. You can build upon that statement that the other person has shared with a new perspective or idea, or you think about what else can you share that adds value to the conversation, rather than just having your point in mind and saying it no matter what, regardless of whether or not it's relevant, it's already been said, right? You always want to think in a group discussion about what can I add, what can I contribute that really adds value and continues to pull the conversation forward. So it's all about listening to the question or listening to the information that's already been shared. Kavita, back to you for the etiquette.
Yes. So this one is important. Actually, it's so simple that sometimes we forget about it. And this is what makes the difference between an outstanding candidate at times and an average response in an interview. So right from when you start addressing a person, a lot of times students wonder, what should we say? How should we address someone? So again, it's always better to start with a more formal greeting. So, hello, Mr. Devesh, or good morning, Mr. Lati, till Devesh says, hey, it's all right, call me Devesh. If he does not say that to you, please continue by addressing him as Mr. Devesh or Mr. Lati. That's point number one. In the Indian context, we also use a lot of sir and ma'am, which is also fine. So if somebody addresses me as Kavita ma'am, my instinctive reaction is to say, hey, Kavita is fine. But if someone addresses Catherine as Catherine ma'am and she prefers that, then you can just continue with that. So always wait, address more formally, wait to see if your interviewer corrects you on the way they would like to be addressed, and then change your greeting or your interactions accordingly. If they don't, it means they are fine with the formal addressal. So please continue with that formal addressal. This is etiquette when you're addressing one-on-one. But what happens in a group discussion setting? A lot of times we find students who think that being the loudest is the only way to get heard. And that is completely a no-no. But that doesn't mean you become a mouse and you start whispering in an undertone and nobody can even hear what you're saying. You have to find, remember we spoke about practice and we spoke about finding the right tone, the right modulation, the right information, and then picking up what suits best for you, right? So put your point across, put it definitively, but not loudly. The other mistake that we find a lot of people make in group discussions is this sense of urgency. They are jumping out of their seats. Ma'am, sir, ma'am, sir. It's not needed. Okay? Lift your hand, or if raise an emoticon, do that. Wait your turn. That shows you have confidence, you have maturity, and you are listening, like Catherine just spoke about. You are listening to what is going on, and then you adapt your response to what you want to say. The other thing about etiquette is when you end an interview or you end an interaction, you must always end it with a thank you. And you must always end it with a thank you for your time. I really enjoyed it. And you must also ask, is there any follow-up needed to this interaction? Students don't ask that, so they miss that information. They also don't ask, when will we hear back, right? Is there any follow-up that we could do after this interaction? If you ask that, you will know. So either they will tell you, we will get back to you by the weekend, or they will tell you, watch the website, or they will tell you, we will soon get back to you. But at least they know that you know. You need to ask this closing question. And thank you for your time is always a very polite way to end any interaction. Catherine, would you like to add anything to etiquette that I might have not included in my this thing so far?
I think you've covered it very honestly. I think.
Okay, so and now we go to the last one, which is relax. You've got this, relax. Okay, in this mad online world of ours, no matter how much you prepare, no matter how in control you are, things still happen. So what happened today? We've had dodgy internet, which has come up 2 or 3 times. Now, one option could be that we could get really flustered and not know how to go about it. But because, remember, we have practiced, we have prepared, we know what's on these slides, we know our matter well enough. So the moment someone drops the ball, somebody else can pick it up. Now, when you're alone, this is, Catherine and me are just a fabulous team, if we say so ourselves. But when you're alone, remember, rely on your own self to be that partner for your own self. Okay? Be confident in your preparation. Be confident in your own ability to crack this interview. And smile. Even if you're nervous, smile. That smile gives you the power it buys you time, and it gives you the power to take the conversation in any direction. Now, students normally get very nervous and scared in interviews. But remember, you have the power to take the conversation in any direction that you want. And once you understand that, then you are controlling this interview. So how do we say this? If you're well prepared and you want to talk about the fact that you've been working on a data science project and how many hours you worked on it and who is the one person who has inspired you to do it and you know enough about that person. So can you see how we have channelized this conversation? And when you relax, then your body language reflects that. Your hands are less fidgety, your smile is there, your shoulders are back, and just the whole persona is someone who is inviting you to listen to their opinions. And the moment you hook your interviewer, half the job is done. And the fact that we've had over 100 participants on this webinar and who have not logged off means that we have hooked your attention from the beginning. And that's all you need to do. You need to grab your interviewer's attention, then with your preparation, augment it with facts, because you can't rubbish your way through that, and end with a smile with the correct etiquette. And that just presents the best version of yourself. And you will crack each and every interview, no matter whether it's in an individual setting or a group setting, if it's online or in person, or whether it's your first interview or your 100th interview. And with that, we come to the end of the workshop and the 10 tips. We're open for questions, and I leave it for Devesh to tell us how to do the questions. Also, I think Catherine would like to share an exciting update about an upcoming workshop with you.
Yes, thank you, Kavita. So before we open up to questions, if you guys would like to learn more, get more practice, get a little more experience, get more insight and depth with these tips that we've shared today, then on Friday, January 7th, I think it's the 7th, we will be holding a longer workshop in which we'll go in more depth into these details as well as more. We've got, I think it's about 20 or so tips that we go through in that presentation. And that one is more, it's a small group workshop. It's very interactive. So you guys actually get to ask your questions one-on-one as well. You get the opportunity to practice a few things, have discussions with us. So that will be on the 7th. I'm going to drop the email in the chat box. If you have any questions about it, if you're interested in pre-registration, then you can just shoot us an email and then we will share details on email as well.
And I'd just like to add to that, it is a paid workshop, the details of which will be shared with you. But for Next Genius family, it's a very exciting offer. A workshop which is actually priced at $2,999. We're offering for the price of $2,000 just for the Next Genius Group family. So with that, we come to the end of the workshop and we now are open to take all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine and Kavita, for your fantastic insights. I really enjoyed the whole session. And we have one question right now. So students, if you have more questions, please use the Q&A feature to ask your questions. And while you do that, let me just put down the email ID of ExtraView to everyone. So just write to them, and I highly encourage you to join that workshop. You have already learned so much in half an hour. So just think what you can learn in a more extensive and a more personal workshop where you'll be able to ask your own questions. And with with all the conditions that we are in, where in-person activities are not happening that much, interviews have become very, very important. And Next Genius, again, as I discussed a little bit earlier, that interviews are an integral part of the scholarship process. So I'm sure a workshop like this can benefit you a lot. I've just put the email ID. I think it's a contact at @extraview.in. Just feel free to write to them and get more information about how to register for this workshop. There are 4 or 5 questions coming in, so I'll just quickly ask them one by one and let's take them. In a group interview setting, how do we formally address our peers? So whoever, Catherine, Kavita, yes.
In this, I would say, if it is your peers, someone who is your age, then feel free to address them by your first name. You could ask them, it's an online interview, you'll see their name there. You could ask them, is that what you prefer to be called? Some people may have a nickname that they didn't put there, but I think that you don't need to refer to them by their last name. You can address them by their first name and ask them if that's their preferred name.
Superb. Next question. Are there any group interview? No, wait, 1 second. Can you share some tips on how to sound confident? Ways to modulate our voice, how to be a good storyteller during interviews. I think that's a whole workshop in itself.
Yeah. Okay, one quick tip. When you're speaking, make sure you're not raising your voice at the end, so it all sounds like questions. I see a lot of students do this. And so that's one that immediately, if you're doing that, it sort of undermines your confidence level. So that's a quick and easy one. Other ones, take time, take practice. Kavita, what would you say as far as tips to sound more confident?
Confidence comes with knowing your matter well. Confidence comes with practice, and there is no shortcut to it, honestly. There is not, it's nothing that I can tell you, okay, do this tomorrow morning and you're going to be confident like this. It doesn't. Confidence is something which is exhibited when your knowledge and in your own ability and in the subject matter. I think both those things are very important for you to sound confident. And it's natural to be nervous. Everyone gets nervous, including all 4 panelists here. I think we all get nervous when we have to do stuff well, but that's really good because that makes you work harder. That makes you, not complacent. And confidence is something that comes over time, and it needs to be built step by step. And the first success makes you that much more confident. The second one makes you a little more. The third one, but the 10th one, you're sort of, it's a part of who you are.
Superb. My third question is, can you please discuss about a formal outfit for women?
Okay, so it depends on what you're applying for. You need to give it a little bit of thought. So for example, if you're going for an inter-school competition, then it's very important that you are dressed in your complete uniform, which includes your school tie, which will include any badges that you need to wear, which includes your school blazer for the lapel with your school emblem to show. Now, if you're going, and is it specifically for women? Is the question specific?
Yes, that's what I think a girl asked that. So, yeah.
Okay. So today, there is no rule that a woman cannot go in a business suit, or a woman cannot go in a sari, or a woman cannot go in a... So for today, I'm wearing a navy blue round neck sweater. It's a sweater that a boy or a girl can wear, right? But what is important is it's ironed. What is important is there's no holes in it. What is important is I haven't dropped something on it and it's got stains on it. So you can wear what you like. Like I said, it's important to express your own sense of style, but being tidy and well-groomed is a given. So wear what you like, but make sure that it's tidy, well-groomed, and you're presented well. That's what's important.
Superb. Thank you, Kavita. And now we are coming to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your insights. Before closing, any final comments?
I'd just like to say that, remember, each one of you has it in you to excel. The fact that you're on this platform means you have the drive to do well for yourself. And at ExtraView, we help you dare to dream. We help you, grab those dreams. Even if you do it without ExtraView, we wish you the very best of luck, and we hope you all succeed in whatever your endeavors are.
Yes, yeah, I echo all of those sentiments. You guys have been a wonderful audience. Thank you for the questions, and we hope to see many of you at the workshop. We look forward to getting to know some of you there. And again, we wish you all the best in everything, and hope for all of your success in the future.
Thank you so much once again, Catherine and Kavita. Students who are here, if you have more questions, you can about interviews, you can email Catherine and Kavita. on the email ID, which I'm just putting in the chat box once again for you. More interview questions can be sent here on contact@xw.in. And right on time. So once again, thank you, everyone. If you missed out a part of this recording, we'll share it with you. And all the best for the next steps. If you have more questions about the Next Genius process, the next steps, don't hesitate in reaching out to us via WhatsApp, via email. We are there to help you and support you in this journey. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead.